Disclaimer. This speech is not original and has been copied. It is not an attempt to show it as an original work, but an adoption of the real speech for our English project.
We are living in difficult and challenging economic times, of course, and one of the first victims of difficult economic times is public spending, and certainly a firing line this moment is science, in particular, curiosity-led science and discoveries. Someone trying to convince you that that is a ridiculous and ludicrous thing to do. But the saddest thing I have this picture here. Now, this is not an attempt to show the worstest line in the history of TED, but it is a bit of mess. Because if I want to convince you that you should continue to spend in curiosity-led science, I should tell you how much it costs. This is the UK government spend. It's about 620 billion a year. The science budget is 3.3 billion out of the 620 billion. That funds everything in the UK. Medical research, space exploration, Rava gets CERN in Geneva, particle physics, engineering, even arts and humanities, funded from the 3.3 tiny little yellow blob at the top right corner of the screen. So that's what we're arguing about. The person, by the way, is same for the US, Germany and France. R&D in total is the public spend in these things is 0.6% of the GDP. But is there any use of science other than just a sense of wonder? Well, there is. This is a very famous picture. This was taken by Apollo 8 as it went from around the back of the moon. Earthrise on Apollo 8. Many people say that it saved the year 1968, a very turbulent year. Students' riots in Paris, the height of Vietnamese wars. The reason why many people say this about this picture is that arguably this picture was the beginning of the environmental movement. You see, for the first time we saw Earth not as a solid, immovable, kind of indestructible place, but as a small, fragile-looking dot suspended in the darkness of space. Another thing that is often not said about space exploration, about programs like Apollo, is the economic contribution it makes. Many studies has been done to find the economic impact of Apollo. The biggest one was in 1975 by Chase Econometrics. It shows that for every $1 spent in the Apollo program, 14 came back to the US economy. So the Apollo program paid for itself 14 times over. So explorations can pay for themselves. What about scientific discoveries? What about driving innovation? Now, this looks like a picture of virtually nothing. Well, in fact, what this is a spectrum of hydrogen. See, back in the 1880s, 1890s, many scientists, many observers looked at strange pictures like these. They saw the light emitted by the atoms of various elements. You see, when you put it through a prism, when you heat hydrogen up, it doesn't just glow like a white light. It emits light at particular frequencies, a red one, a light blue one, a few dark blue ones. Now, that led to an understanding of the structure of atoms. The way that explained is that atom is a single nucleus with electrons revolving around it. Now, these electrons can be at very specific places. So when the electron jumps up to the next place it can be and falls back again, it emits light at particular frequencies. So the fact that heated element emits light at particular frequency quickly led to understanding of the quantum theory, the theory that explains the structure of atoms. Now, I want to show you this picture because this is amazing. There's a spectrum of hydrogen, the spectrum of the sun, the atoms in the sun's atmosphere absorbing light. You see there are many black colors, so they absorb light at very specific frequencies. The element helium was discovered just by looking at one of these pictures. A few of the black lines there corresponded to no known elements, so that's why helium is called helium. It's Helios from the sun. So that sounds esoteric, and indeed, it was an esoteric pursuit to understand the structure of atoms. But the quantum theory quickly led to an understanding of the way the electron behaves in materials like silicon, for example. The way that silicon behaves, the fact that we can build transistors, is a purely quantum phenomena. So without the curiosity-driven of science to understand the structure of atoms, we wouldn't have this esoteric quantum theory. We wouldn't have transistors. We wouldn't have silicon chips. We wouldn't have pretty much the basis of the modern economy. The argument has always been made, and will always be made, that we know enough, we don't have to explore more. You could have made in the 1920s, you wouldn't have penicillin. You could have made in the 1890s, you wouldn't have transistors. And it's made today, in these difficult economic times. So I want to leave this last few lines to the person who's rapidly becoming a hero of mine, Humphrey Davy. He did his science at the turn of the 19th century. He was undersold all the time. We know enough for the turn of the 19th century, just exploited, just build things. He said this, he said, "Nothing is more fatal to human mind than to presume that our views about science is ultimate, that our triumphs are complete, that there are no more mysteries in nature, that there are no new worlds to conquer."